All right. And what is what do they say that's the opposite of and scene? Begin scene? On tracked.
You're a podcaster now, Joe.
I'm a podcaster now. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Adjunct of Code.
Adjunct of computing.
See? Every time... I was going to say I was pausing there to not make it clear that I had forgotten the name of my own show, but that I already said the wrong thing. So, amazing.
It takes time.
Leaving it in.
Takes time.
Adjunct of computing. I'm new here. We got to keep that in mind.
We could have chosen a less tongue-twistery name, perhaps.
That's also true.
That wouldn't be as fun.
Maybe I shouldn't write down just the initialism in my notes. That would also be helpful. All right, so welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in with us. I really appreciate Sean he dropped in the shout out to this show in the main show. So
I'm gonna keep doing it.
Probably know what's going on here. Yeah, awesome. We need people in here because I think me and Sean are having a ton of fun, and I think people who have been watching it have been enjoying it. Because that's kind of the point of what we're doing here.
Yeah, we've already gotten a lot of good feedback. I've had a number of listeners say they enjoy that there's an after show now. So,
oh, cool.
Gotta keep doing it.
And I gotta drop into the Patreon because I never go in there. I went in there to check once when you first dropped the test, and that was the last time I was in there. So I really should poke in and say hi.
I think the only negative feedback was I would like an audio version of the episode, which we have now. So,
yo, nice tie-in.
Big ups.
Anywhere you can acquire fine podcasts. So, let's jump right into it. This episode, the Programma 101, it's a fun one. Mm-hmm. I think it's just in the classic advent of computing wheelhouse in that, as we were kind of saying, we were just talking before recording, it's the weird personal computer in a time when there were not personal computers. Let's Rube Goldberg something onto a desk and make it work kind of situation that I think is really the bread and butter of what Sean enjoys very much. So yeah, tell us a little bit, a recap. What is the Programma 101? What's its deal? Why are we interested in it?
Easy. The Programma one-on-one. I kept... when I was recording the episode, I kept accidentally saying that and having to retake. The Programma 101 is this machine that looks like a desktop calculator, but it's not. It's actually a small computer that fits on your desk that is it's designed in such a way that you can technically use it as a desktop calculator, but it's fully programmable, and it's just a really, really strange machine. It's from the early 60s, so it's not from a period where small computers exist, but it's a small computer. It was the smallest computer money could buy. It was also built and developed in Italy at Olivetti, which I haven't talked about on the show very much. I need to talk about them more because I did a little bit of looking at their other machines, and they're very, very different from computers that I'm used to. And that includes the Programma 101. I almost called it the one-on-one again.
It's gonna keep happening. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story. It's got the weirdness, and mentioning Olivetti, it comes from there's a lot of interesting origin points for computing, right? And a whole bunch of them come from that, mid-century, we desperately have to transition from a business technology that does not make sense anymore all of a sudden into something that does, in that Olivetti, a typewriter company.
Well,
they have to make that transition.
I push back on that a little bit because typewriters and electric typewriters especially were still a big deal in the 60s because we don't have practical word processors till the 1980s. I'd say the dedicated word processors that exist before desktop computers don't really count as practical word processors, right?
Oh yeah,
because that's a whole different topic. But in Olivetti's case, it was more the president of Olivetti at the time saw that computers were going to be the future, so it was a strategic investment. It wasn't so much, or at least in what I've read, it wasn't so much a scramble to try to be relevant. It was, this is going to be the future, and where it would be very easy for us to be positioned to take on the future.
Right. I definitely made it sound a bit more dire than I suppose it really was, because you're right. It's a smart time to be transitioning into new technologies. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, desktop calculator, desktop computer posing as a programmable calculator with weird magnetic storage. One of the interesting
not
things.
Not magnetic storage. Oh, you mean the cards? The cards were magnetic storage.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying the memory is magnetic. The memory is not magnetic.
No, the memory is a piece of spring steel wire.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure, because I think now I'm gonna go check, because I'm fairly certain, and anybody who like wikis old computers on a regular basis will probably have seen this picture, but the if you go on like the wiki page for delay line or delay line memory, whichever is the redirect, there is the picture of a what is the technical term, Sean, if you still have it in your head?
It's a magneto-restrictive delay line, or magneto-restrictive delay element, I believe, is the most correct phraseology. But it is just a piece of spring steel spiraled up into a nice little compact space.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing that works at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just... torsion wire delay line. So I'm looking at the wiki page right now, just because that's one of the many names. And I'm fairly certain, I'm looking at the picture I'm thinking of right now, which we'll see if I edit it in. This is a fairly low effort podcast, but I think it's the one from the Programma.
That wouldn't that's the one that be that surprising. There weren't a whole lot of devices that used torsion springs for memory, and I think among them the Programma was probably the most prolific. I'd be surprised if someone hit back with a correction to that.
I'm just shocked looking at it that like you don't get crazy noise from just the wire coils next to each other rattling around basically as they vibrate. But engineering.
Well, in theory, we could find out soon. My man Larry is trying to restore his to working order, which, if he does, I'm going to put my ear up to that. I want to see if you can hear the coil. I don't think that would be neat. But I just have no idea.
It's got to be in the ultrasonic regime, just because of the amount of little pulse trains that you've got in the wire at one time. It's gotta be.
You'd have to do the math. I don't know exactly how fast the propagation was, but that would be in probably like a maintenance manual. You could find that
for sure. But yeah, that makes me think of one thing that I was going to ask that I didn't kind of put on the pre-show roster for us to prep for was, you make it sound like I assume you have seen a Programma 101 in person. Like,
at
does the guy at
SoCal
SoCal have
this year? Yeah, it's a beast.
I would love to see one because thinking about that and then looking at the picture again, I can picture it being much bigger, because you said it's more like half of a solid desk size, right?
So I have a mid-century modern desk that I work at, and the Programma would take up like half of the desktop. It's
I
can
picture it much better.
Beige, it's cast metal. Like the thing weighs like over 100 pounds. It's a capital C computer.
If you want to look at a picture of it, I kind of get it now, because you look at the keyboard and you don't really realize when you look at the picture that it's a relatively full-size keyboard. It's also a small number of keys for a keyboard, but that now I can picture that as it's a bigger keyboard than you think, and then all of a sudden you see how big this thing is.
Yes. The keys are probably about the same size as
they're not
like on a Model M or something. It's a powerful, like I was saying, it's a capital C computer. You could not throw that out a window very easily.
Which is that's one of the important inventions with personal computers. They wanted something you could chuck, and that was a great advancement in the computer technology. That you can
Hey,
really
if you
take your
can't defenestrate a computer, then that means it's more powerful than you. That's like the bottom
Mm-hmm.
line.
That's right. So on that note, that actually makes me, I think I was thinking scale wise of more like the HP desk calculators, which I was saying, I know there's a pretty big like dedicated fan base for, I mean, for all things HP, but for those calculators in specific. And I can roughly judge the scale of those, having seen a few YouTube videos about them. And that's, I think, what I was more picturing size wise when I was
How
picturing
big
it. And
are those
it's
exactly? Because I'm not a calculator guy.
I mean, they look like maybe like a little over a foot wide, you know?
Are they
like
bigger
a
than than a bread box?
Don't know. I can't tell if that's a joke or not. Is it animal, vegetable, or mineral?
Right.
I would have to say slightly wider than a bread box. That's weirdly fit. My wife has been doing a lot of bread lately, and she literally just bought a bread box, so that's a weirdly good measure. But my transition there is, so for scale, way bigger than that is definitely what I'm seeing now. Like, I get it now. And I was just looking this up earlier, because again, I'm not an HP calculator guy, but if it gives people who are thinking like desktop calculator, whatever, HP was doing that in the 60s. I thought this was interesting because I wanted to look it up before the episode. And I'm going to say as little as possible as I can about HP calculators, because me and Sean have both said we don't know, so don't come at us.
We're trying to keep ourselves safe.
Yes. Putting the armor on there. The HP 9100 was 1968, at least according to Wiki. And we all know how reliable that is. And the Programma 101 was 64. So I think that's pretty rad in that it gives me also a good time scale sense that like if you say it's 60s, it you know, it's a very like wide feeling range. But that's
it's older than Unix.
That's the end of the 60s and the beginning of the 60s. And in computer terms, that's a big difference.
Well, especially
like ICs are getting in by the end of the 60s,
period.
all that stuff. And
I didn't talk about it on the show because I didn't have the space. There's a whole lot more that could be said about the Programma, but it uses cordwood construction, which is what they use.
That's the one where you have two PCBs with things.
Yeah, where you have stacked PCBs and components are between the PCBs. It's what they used in the Apollo guidance computer to get the densest circuits you could make without VLSI or like actual good ICs. Because the AGC uses some ICs, but they're super, super primitive.
Right. Yeah, and all NAND gates, I believe. So that's the HP story. It's earlier than that by a good amount. So it's definitely the I don't know, the progenitor. That's not the right word because I don't think the HP stuff is taking off of that. But you know, it is the first.
Yeah,
if you're going to compare between those two at least.
Early hardware.
And it's weird. We were talking about that at the top, and I think that is. I was leading with it's Sean's wheelhouse of weird Rube Goldberg-esque computers, and that's the thing I love, and we can chat about it a little bit.
Goldberg, just like really, really bizarre period pieces, because there's no, like, you couldn't have made this in 1960. You wouldn't have made this in 1970, right?
Yeah.
There's just like a slim period of time where it would even make sense to construct something like this.
Well, I mean, and it's like, what else is using, magneto-restrictive memory at this time? What else is, like, all of these things, the magneto-restrictive memory, almost certainly, I would imagine, not invented for exactly this application. It's not like he invented it. Yeah.
Apparently it was used in other desktop calculators, which I need to circle back to eventually, because I don't know, maybe I'll do a magneto-restrictive episode.
I mean, it seems like when you look at it, it's clearly a great way of minimizing your physical memory footprint, so it makes sense. But just all of these mechanisms that are fit together to make a computing device. You know, again, kind of like we were talking about last time, it's the running theme, especially of early computers, is just finding things that will fit the bill and getting them together. So, you know,
either finding or inventing the exact parts,
and a little bit of both. Because again, like we mentioned at the top, the magnetic storage, which is like, it's a card with mag stripes on it. And that's weird. And that is
I've never
definitely
seen
invented.
I've never seen that in any other machine. Someone correct me if it's used in another computer. I'd love to know. But I think it was unique to the Programma.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a fair number of things, and they're all later, that use like chip card type things, you know? Like picture, the first thing that comes to my mind, and it's going to be so specific, and it's a video game person thing, that is the hue cards for a Turbo Graphics. But I know like a bunch of things have that.
Yeah.
Like, again,
But that's
I'm
like
thinking much
silicon
later stuff.
storage.
And you have to have ROM. You know, you have to have some kind of mask ROM or something. So obviously way later. But so I can picture tons of those are like card memories that are solid state memories. But anything that's like a mag stripe. One thing that occurs to me just now, and it's because it's not an answer that either of us can answer, but I literally just watched the new Veritasium episode where they're talking about credit card technologies. It's a cool episode if you haven't seen it yet. I feel like the Venn diagram of people who watch us and people who watch Veritasium and related YouTube channels is probably a circle. But anyway, they were talking about credit card stuff. And it occurs to me that like credit cards are definitely a very 60s thing that feels right. And I'm wondering if magstripe on card for those purposes was just kind of a thing that was going around. But I may be way off on the timescale, and it's potentially just because it's on the tip of my tongue because I just saw that. But
that could
just
be
a weird thing that hit me.
That's one of those things that would either be really, really easy to figure out or really, really difficult to figure out, right? Because they'll either be like a patent and some very like important research paper that came out when mag stripe technology became a thing, or it might be one of those technologies that just happened and proliferated and no one ever talked about.
And so that people don't at me, I'm also aware using mag stripes for credit card stuff is way later, but I'm pretty sure that like the idea of mag stripes on a thing was significantly earlier. I'm probably still way off on that because like barcodes for grocery stores weren't till the 70s, so I may be thinking way too early. But
although barcodes did exist like in the 60s, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I know they're like
entering
the first
realm.
application, like the first time they were used in a grocery store that a grocery store converted to using them for all of their stocking was definitely the early 70s. But you're probably right in that they were working on them or they existed prior to that.
Well,
anyway,
I know they use them on rail cars for identifying freight containers. And I think that was in the 60s. Yeah, that's something I have in my back pocket for an episode eventually. But that's like deep research.
We got more Programma stuff to get through. So the only last question I have on the mag stripe, because the topic of weird cobbled together early computers, really we have clearly terminated at talking about the mag stripe, and that's interesting. And my question there is, I vaguely understand. We'll get back to the programming of it in a little bit. I was saying because I just want you to re-explain that to me.
Good.
Because it's special.
It's fascinating.
But I vaguely understand the mag card holds a handful of registers from the machine on it, effectively. And there's more than one mag stripe on the card. Yeah?
There's two, because you can send it in forward and then you turn around and send it in the other way.
Really? Because I was picturing.
So. I think that's how you use it.
Are there pictures of this around?
Because
I was just picturing like multiple parallel tracks on one side.
You can find photos of the mag card. I don't know offhand if it has one pickup head or multiple.
Oh, I see what you mean. In that you have like potentially you have one pickup head and you run it and then you flip it and now your mag that was on your stripe that was on the opposite side caddy corner is now rotated to be on top of the head when you do it the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I don't know if it had, like, if the physical layout would have been like two stripes of data on each side, because the actual card, when you flip it over, it is just magnetic media bonded to a piece of cardstock. It's not like a stripe.
Oh, it's
embedded
cardstock.
paper.
Because also I was picturing plastic here.
No, so paper with Mylar. I assume it's Mylar bonded to the back that has like magnetic reactive impregnation. It basically looks like someone cut out floppy disk media and taped it on the back of a card.
Fascinating. All right. Well, enough about how many mag stripes the thing has. Let's just go into, because it actually, I wasn't paying attention, but it is my next bullet point is, can we rehash how this thing is programmed? Just
Yes.
for starters, just run it by me again. I will say the one thing that I picked up on it stuck on me, and I'm sorry because I'm doing one of my classic tangents where I can just picture people being annoyed at this because I know it's something I do. I ask you a question and then immediately say, "Wait, no, stop! I got another thing to say about it."
No, that's fine. We're just hanging out talking about computers. It's fine to have tangents.
All right, excellent. This is the Joe show now, and you'll never get a turn again. The whole thing about opcodes are just their characters.
Yeah.
Is that the case for all of them? Okay, because that's, again, this is one that I didn't have a big chance to research going into it. And so I just had the piddly wiki article and what you said. And so reading the wiki article, it like has it talks about that a little bit, I think. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, obviously like plus and minus and blah, blah, blah are like just representative of what it is. And then I hear you talking about it in the episode, and no, it sounds like it's the actual character codes are the same thing as the opcodes.
Yes.
Which is a lot of, I think you're about to get to this, a lot of early computers have that weirdness.
Correct.
Because they've either got their own weird ass character code like the Programma does. So it's whoever's designing its job to say what's what, right? And that they'll just say opcode is the same thing as this character, whatnot. But yeah, just that there's a bunch of that was the whole tangent that I'm going on here.
Yeah, so machines
that was
as
cool.
early as UNIVAC do that, where it's just convenient to have mnemonic opcodes, right? Because you're going with really, really early computers. Some of them come out before assembly languages actually exist, and others aren't powerful enough to have the capability to run like self-host and assembler, right?
Right.
So if you want anything mnemonic, that has to be in hardware. So like UNIVAC does it. Of course, the LGP30 does it. So it's a good idea. The Programma does it. I don't have a full list in my head, but you run into just a lot of these early machines where it's like, we're defining a character set. The character set is mnemonic to our opcodes.
Right. And it's
it
like,
also means
you can picture
like
at the time of like, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah,
like, why
exactly.
would you make it harder on yourself?
Yes. So I think it's probably less like people going, oh, well, computers have been so difficult to use up to this point in 1947. So ... It's more just like, well, yeah, that's how I design it. Why would you design it another way? This just makes sense.
Exactly. Okay. So sorry.
So program.
Tangent over. Back to you.
How does one program a program?
Yeah.
So one of the neat things about its instruction set architecture that feels pretty modern is that it's variable with instructions, right? So an instruction is either a single character being the opcode or a character and optional arguments. So like addition, for instance, is a plus that adds the M register into the accumulator. But if you do plus and like D, there's another register called D. That actually it's backwards. You do D plus, then that adds the value of the D register to the accumulator. And all of the opcodes are structured like that. The jumps are a little different because this is like this took me a while to wrap my head around because it's so weird. The jumps are pairs of labels and jumps to those labels. So you'll have like I forget the exact ones, but it'll be something like V is the jump that goes to the label AV, and it can only go to that label. And then there's a separate pair where /V is the conditional jump that goes to A/V. And you have to have that conditional label or it won't go to it. That's
like
strange,
it'll
'cause
just
there's
fall over. How on earth does that work?
I think it just doesn't recognize it, right? Either doesn't
Okay.
recognize it or jumps off into space, because the machines...
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would expect like
Yeah.
a jump off into space.
It's not complicated enough to
that's
have
gonna-
air trapping.
Right.
But so they're in the manuals, there are tables that have like these jumps go to these labels and these conditional jumps go to these labels.
And so you only have also what I'm picking up here is like you have a fixed bag of labeled
Yeah.
jump
Yeah, you have
pairs
16
that you
of
can
each.
use.
So
Okay.
you have 16 unconditional jumps and 16 conditional jumps that you can use. And the condition is always,
Interesting.
is the accumulator greater than 0? That's the only condition you get, which is enough.
So is this implemented then as like as are they themselves registers in that like the jump target is a register in the wire?
No.
Or
No, it's not. Because so all the code is loaded into a region in memory that's presented as a set of registers.
right.
So I think what it's doing when you do a jump to a target is it just scans, because a scan operation through memory is the same as reading memory, because it's
that is true.
already recirculating in a delay line. So if you
this
say
is
like,
oft forgotten when you're not used to the idea of a delay line.
right? So if you say, oh, I want to jump to AV, it would just be like, okay, zoop, 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 memory spinning.
Yeah,
oh, here's
wait until
AV.
that's
It's
under the
come
head.
back around. So I don't think doing a scanning algorithm isn't any faster than doing a direct address jump. And there's no address
Right.
anyway, so you couldn't even do like a jump to this address. That wouldn't make sense in the architecture.
Because it's just represented as registers.
Yeah.
So there, I think that's another thing that I like. That seems clear now that we're like relitigating that, but right, that's not even addressing individual spots in memory is not.
Yeah, it
a
doesn't
thing.
exist.
It's just the register set. That's what you get.
Yeah, you get 240 characters worth of code.
Yeah.
So like even if a scan was expensive, it wouldn't cost very much to read every possible location in memory, right? If there's 240 of them, you're just like, scan, done. It's not there,
Yeah.
boss.
I'm out.
Yeah.
That brings us perfectly to like, we are hitting, I don't know if it's because we pre-prepped this time and talked about this, but this leads right into all of my subjects about memory, which is just great job us. Because
Let's go.
I mean, we could do
We're
a few of these in
professionals.
different orders, but the first one I had was just how to introduce this one, because it's generally just I wrote down the issue of memory. It's about building 1,000,000 of something or 1,000 of something or whatnot, but that for people who are, especially I think like just getting into learning about the history of computers and early computers, it's not obvious at first, or at least I think it's one of the things that to me kind of had, I remember having an aha moment at some point of going, oh, memory is a big problem building computers because it's not that hard to, like, Boolean logic, well understood by the time you get to building computers. The issue is a lot of times building the damn thing and not even the logic, because the logic is like, I mean, Bell has gigantic switching systems by the time computers come around that are massively complicated. And there are tons of like massively complicated relay logic systems all over the place. So the logic is not hard. It's memory. And that you don't often appreciate because of the way that we do memories now and that they're so straightforward and you don't even have to think
we
about
just
them.
stamp it out.
Right. That you have to build 1,000 of something.
Yes.
Like even just if you want 1K of memory, you need 1,000, not even 1,000 of things. If you like early computers have really big words for a large part. So if you need 36 bits per word, you need
a lot.
36,000 of something to have a memory.
And if you look at all the different technologies we've used for memory, none of them, like until we get to semiconductor memory, none of them are convenient, because magnetic core, that up until like the end of its lifespan had to be woven by hand with a person with like a little pick. And you just have washers and enamel wire, and you're literally weaving a computer's memory. That's expensive
wanna
and really
say-
hard to do at scale.
I have nothing to back me up on this except for, vague memory, but I'm fairly certain that's one of those things that by the end of it, they started having automated like looms
Yes,
for
that's
it.
correct.
But then at that point, it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah,
because-
I was talking to someone who had a collection of magnetic core at one of the VCFs, and they were saying exactly that eventually they start getting machinery for it, but at that point we have semiconductor memory. Why would you need magnetic core? It doesn't offer any advantage besides like it feels like magic. That's the advantage.
God, pour one out for the poor man who spent his life developing the magnetic core weaving loom.
Right?
Oh, man.
It's fascinating technology, but like even going further back, delay lines are just like a cursed object. Like a delay line, like with mercury delay lines, it's hot mercury in a tube with a crystal on each end. The crystals have to be polished. They have to be polished very specifically.
Yeah, because I'd imagine that's like for impedance matching stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to heat the tube to like 100 degrees, and then you just scream into it with a crystal, and another crystal here is on the other end. Like it's cursed technology. And even the torsion lines, you just have little dissimilar metal chunks that bend a little bit and scream down a torsion coil. That shouldn't work. The fact that it works at
the
scale.
Programma 101. Yeah.
Well, that's why the torsion line memory is so interesting, is because that's easy to mass produce. You just need 30 feet of spring steel and little nickel magneto restrictive elements, and you can make that in the same factory that makes typewriters. Whereas something like a mercury delay line, there's no way you can mass produce that. That is a disaster waiting to happen. And even if it isn't, mercury is more expensive than stainless steel. Like at the end of the day.
Is it? Yeah, that's a thing. As far as like metal commodities, I guess it never occurred to me the relative values of mercury.
Mercury's not exactly expensive, but it's not cheap. It's not like super cheap commodity stuff.
Yeah.
Especially because you need really pure mercury, since the whole point is they used mercury since it had really, really predictable properties. But if there's impurities in it, it wouldn't have predictable properties.
Well, and that's something that, I mean, good thing that's the chat show, because we're going down a rabbit hole right now, and I'm taking us there. And it's that I didn't appreciate for the longest time, I guess really just when I was young, that aspect of mercury delay lines is that like, firstly, the question is why mercury? And that's a fairly obvious one, if you give us some time later on. It's like, oh, it's because of the speed of sound in it, and it's pretty really slow, so you can fit a lot of stuff in it. But that aspect of tolerance, and I think for a lot of old computer technology, it comes down to stuff like this, because so much stuff is, for lack of a better word, because it really isn't the right word, but it's a hack, a lot of analog hacks to kind of get stuff working with a minimum of
vacuum tubes were analog technology that were not supposed to be driven like they were in digital computers. That's one of the reasons early on they're unreliable. They didn't have specialized tubes yet.
Like, did you do an episode about that early on, or something that involved that, talking about how they actually had to kind of invent or develop digital tubes,
if it was
because analog tubes were just not built for fast
So I didn't
switching.
do an episode on that, but that did come up in an episode where I want to say it was Whirlwind, but it was another, if it wasn't Whirlwind, it was some other early computer. They started having access to early production tubes that were meant for full binary duty cycle. Because prior to that, they were using tubes meant for audio amplification, because that's what a vacuum tube is. Those aren't meant, they're optimized for an analog waveform, not for on-off duty cycles. And so they burn out because you're essentially very quickly driving it as hard as it can take and then turning it off.
Right.
And that, they don't like that. That doesn't end well. But so reliability like goes through the roof as soon as they have actual special purpose tubes. But it takes years to get there because there's not a market for it initially.
Yeah, so putting
But
putting tolerances on all this early technology and
tolerance is
appreciating that
really important.
working with those tolerances is hard. It's a big part of the design problem that you don't think of.
Curiously enough, Alan Turing actually speculated that instead of mercury, you could use gin in delay lines.
I always liked that one. Yeah,
that's a
I'm
technology
fairly certain I
that
heard that a
I would
place
love to
beside
see.
you, but yeah.
I'd be very curious to see if that would work. I think it would do something.
If I ever get a chance to come out there, we'll start the Society of the Gin Delay Line.
Yes.
The drinking buddy order of the gin delay line.
We'll start polishing some crystals, put them in the tube. The tube doesn't have quite enough fluid in it all of a sudden, you know?
This is all very scientific. It reminds me of, God, I think that was Soviet stuff, or it was probably all around. I think mainly Soviet.
Oh, are you
rocket
talking
program,
about
for the
ethanol?
RP1? Yeah, because RP1 is basically just ethanol, and they would drink it, and and just go blind. Anyway, backing up like one tangent level, the tolerances. It's just because when I was a kid, first heard about mercury delay lines, and I'm like, that would be a cool thing to build. I'm just gonna like get a piece of PVC pipe and some water and a couple piezo elements. And of course, I never did that because when you're a kid, you have these ideas and you're like, oh, I'll do that someday, and you never do it. But that now I fully appreciate how that just would not work. And it's just because your properties, I mean, it wouldn't work for those purposes. That's why they didn't do that, is because the purity of your medium is going to really throw shit off.
You might be able to do an interesting like tech demo that way.
I bet you could. I would probably still have fun doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, trying to fit a reasonable number of words into a couple feet of pipe would probably not be so feasible.
Well,
it's just something that I don't know.
Tricks for that.
Yeah. It seemed so easy when I was young, and now I get what an engineering issue that is. But yeah, then the other thing to tack on to the end of that is delay line memory timing. And I know we were chatting, and neither of us really has an idea, but I still think it's something I want to bring up because it's something that I want to know more. And I guess if anyone knows, and I feel like it's kind of unlikely, but if there's just someone out there who knows obscure knowledge, I guess this would be one of the places that they might be listening. But is how the hell like synchronization works in delay line based systems? Because as someone who has enjoyed building a computer from time to time and or designing a computer from time to time and has machinations about someday building some kind of vintage style computer, bit serial machines make a ton of sense when you build them around delay line memory. And I can picture, okay, you've got one register, and in that case, it doesn't really matter like where your start of word is, because your whole like add cycle is just going to work on the whole word. So it just matters where the adder thinks that beginning is. And then it's just going to always stay in sync because you're looping those same ones over and over again. So the issue to me that I think is crazy, that I don't understand, I would love to know more, is how the machine knows in like a multi-word delay line what word you're on, and how the machine stays synchronized with that, which I'm sure is wildly different from machine to machine. But because it seems like you'd need like some kind of counter or something, which just seems like a chicken and egg problem, because then you have a bunch of memory elements that you need to keep track of where you're at in memory. And Sean is trying to butt in here, and I'm going to let him, because that's the end of my rant, and I don't know, and I want to know.
I got some answers for you. Okay. First, I think the place to look, now that I've been thinking about this a little bit, would be the first papers on EDSAC describe delay line memory like application very specifically. And with the project that finished a few years ago to recreate EDSAC, that would probably be the place to get information.
I might not know about this.
What? You don't know about this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
so there was a project. I only know a little bit about it, but I think 5 or 6 years ago they finished recreating EDSAC. They used actually torsion delay line memory because for health and safety reasons they didn't want to work with hot mercury. Go figure, right? But But what EDSAC
Modern
does,
nanny state
no,
BS.
not weak, just not deranged from
Yeah,
mercury
just
poisoning.
not a great idea. I could see it.
So what EDSAC did, and what a lot of other computers that use delay lines did, is the memory is bit parallel.
Right, you were saying. Yes.
So
and
if
so
they
I think,
have
because
a
I feel
word
like
of memory,
I read I read First Report on the EDVAC a while ago. And
that's not going to help you with
think
actual application. That
it's
wasn't
very abstract. But I
built.
feel like at some point he intimates the idea of doing parallel tanks.
Yeah, parallel
I think.
bit. So what you
So
what
there's
you end
something
up
like that in my
doing
mind.
is if you have a 16-bit word, you have 16 delay lines. So your actual memory width is defined by how many delay lines you have, and the amount of words you have is defined by how long those delay lines are, right?
Right.
So then, I don't know the exact circuitry offhand, but if you're doing bit serial, you'd have that get multiplexed out through like a series of latches, right? So you would still get a serial stream of words. It's just that the physical storage is parallel. So that way you're not like dealing with boundaries around words. You just have bit streams. I think unadorned, I don't know if they have timing pulses, but the EDSAC papers would explain that.
Yeah, I'll have to dive into those because you're saying
'Cause I
EDSAC
remember-
papers are much more technical and not
Yeah,
so much theoretical.
I
Like the
remember
EDVAC
the
paper.
diagram. They have one of the papers describes just their memory system, and I have the diagram like in my frontal lobe, and I can see it where they're showing not the timing, I don't think, but they're showing the actual like pulse trains and describing how it's all wired up and recirculates. So you can find that information online.
Yeah, that's I mean, just saying recirculation, it has nothing to do with the timing words and memory, but I don't know that I have much to say about it more than it tickles my brain that the realization that I had at some point of how not easy, but like doing transfers and whatnot between delay line tanks and whatnot. And the fact that it's really just like a mux between the two tanks. And you're just reading the pulses from one tank instead of recirculating the ones from yourself. And that just seems so obvious when you see the idea. But like, I wouldn't have thought about that until I saw it. And I'm like, oh, that seems
a technology
obvious.
that anyone who's alive
That's
has
fair.
really worked with. I mean, maybe like a handful of people have, but all forms of recirculating memory have weird quirks like that. Like
You don't say.
right. The LGP30, actually, my man David over at Usagi Electric just started restoring his LGP21, which I'm very excited about.
I think of you every time that I see that thing.
Oh, I've been I'm on his Discord, and so I keep being like, I know how to program this. Let me know what you want. I'll send you code. So what the LGP 30 and 21 do for timing is they have so on the 21 it has a magnetic platter for memory, and it has a magnetic stripe pattern that it uses as a timing signal. So in that system, it is actually the clock is just generated by the disk spinning and a magnetic pickup flying above.
Yes, I thought that was brilliant because I think that's one of the things that brought the question of how delay line timing works again for me. Is that was another great click for me was watching him renovate the Bendix G15 and the realization, just as he's kind of talking about it as an aside, again, that the timing track is on the drum. And that seems like
so you're
such
always
a
in sync.
brilliant solution because your system clock is on the drum. You have tracks that tell you what word you're on right now. It's just on the drum. Done. Problem solved.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly that was done with Mercury. I should read up about that again because that is a really interesting question, and I'm sure I'm curious if the solution is as elegant as, oh, the timing's just in the mercury, or if it is just like, here's our arcane analog circuit that always knows what time of day it is.
Right, like you've just got some kind of RC circuit that pulses roughly once per word or something.
Yeah, like what is the magic? What is the actual trick?
Oh, I bet it's truly magic. But I think
it's
we're gonna have to
be
leave
magic
that.
or like stupid simple. Right.
Maybe a little bit of both, because I feel like that's a bunch of good stuff in early computing solutions. I mean, that's kind of like, look at, again, like magnetic core is like, I think that's one of those ones that it's both. You just look at it and you're like, I get it. That makes sense. And also that's magic.
Yes.
A lot of genius stuff in there. But so that we do not, I want to get through all our topics.
What's the topic at hand?
I mean, we are on fire today. Gonna have to leave the delay line wondering for another time.
Hey, it's only delayed. It always comes back.
It's gonna recirculate in time.
Hey.
Complication of early machines versus you just need a computer small machines. Because this is the thing that occurs to me all the time, and I appreciate how much this seemed to resonate with you too when you got what I was saying. That the way I was describing it earlier is I think of this in terms of how computer graphics history kind of is, in that, like, computer graphics math is basic geometry stuff, and we had all of this figured out ages before computers could actually do it. When I was a kid, I always wondered, 3D games came out in the 90s, and so, like, why did, like, that must have been a thing that, like, people just figured out how to do in the early 90s. And it's just you couldn't get a computer to do that because it needs to be so friggin' fast. You have so many pixels that you need to handle. It's a lot of math, but we already know how to do it. And that I feel like big old computers and early computers, super similar story in that people already had these ideas on how the whole thing should work, or like the components that a computer could have, or what a computer system would look like. And it's not so much an issue of like figuring out what bits a computer needs. Like it needs a memory, and it needs one thing like cache. Like cache is a very obvious idea in making a computer fast, but it's very expensive. And like, you know, that's why the stretch, you should see the IBM stretch if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's the IBM, everybody probably should.
Huge.
But
it's powerful. Yeah,
you don't I didn't realize until semi-recently how friggin' huge that thing is. And it's because of all the complication you need to put in. But in general, so early computers generally not that complicated, but that they kind of tried to put the kitchen sink of what they wanted a computer to do in, without thinking about the fact that all you need is a Turing complete something that's pretty fast, and you got yourself a computer. And it doesn't matter like how dumb simple the instruction set is.
I think a lot of it just has to do with positioning around where computers were coming out of, right?
Yeah.
Because you have very early on, computers are either tools for research or big expensive business machine. Literally international business machines corners the market on computers. So you're going to be getting big computers from either IBM or anyone competing with IBM because, well, you got to make a big computer.
Got to do it.
So I think early on there's like this really ingrained not pragma, but kind of just that's how things are done. A computer is big. A computer is top of the line. But it takes either, like with the LGP30, that's just straight up really smart analysis of like, oh, there's literally a market gap. There's a market gap for small computers. You don't need a computer that does a whole lot. Not everyone needs IBM Stretch. Sometimes you just need like a step up from a calculator. The LGP, well, that's the LGP30. The Programma is different than that because it's more coming from a place of trying to redefine what a computer is. If you read Perotto's book on the LGP, on the Programma, which there are AI translations of it. I really want like an official English version because it's just so interesting. But if you read translations of his book, he was very clear-eyed about, he thought the dynamic of people bending to the will of big computers was stupid because you don't need a big computer. Most people just need something a little better than a calculator. So it was more...
Well, kind of that market gap thing again in that way.
Part of it is market gap, but I think
you see
part
a
of
big
it
computer
is a lot more ideological.
Olivetti's got big computers. Yeah, for sure. I definitely a bit of both, because I mean, it feels like in the LGP30 it's a little bit of both as well.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, true. That's fair.
But yeah, like you said, just like using a big computer and seeing that, like, you kind of for single user tasks, or just like I want to run a small batch of operations repeatedly or something like that.
I just want to do a little bit of work.
You don't need all of... I'm not using the whole machine. I'm not using
it's interesting
all of what it has to offer.
If you think about that in the context of other research that was going on in the early 60s, right? You have time sharing, you have interactive computer operation, right?
Yeah.
So time sharing is trying to solve the same problem because not everyone needs all of a computer's time. Maybe you just need a small slice of the computer's time. But to actually facilitate that, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of need access to a big computer, need somewhere where the big computer is, need phone lines, need a terminal, need to learn how to use the big computer, but just for a small amount of time. And then on the flip side, you have... one of the things I kept thinking about during my research for the episode is, have you heard of expensive typewriter?
Yes. And
for the PDP-1.
Yeah. Well, because that comes out of like Lincoln Lab.
Yes, it's a
Tixo stuff, right? Because Tixo had expensive calculator or something.
Yeah, an expensive typewriter is a text editor on, I forget if it starts on Tixo or if it starts on the PDP-1, but it's a text processor for the PDP-1, so you can turn your very expensive mini computer into a kind of bad word processor. But there's like this recognition.
Hacker humor.
Oh, you gotta. But there's this like really self-aware recognition that, oh yeah, these computers are really nice for boring, very specific work. But we don't really have boring, very specific hardware. We just have the PDP-1 or Stretch. And yeah, you could turn Stretch into a very, very expensive word processor, but that's not practical, right? You're not actually going to do that in a sustained setting. You're not going to
The real trick is getting the whole word processor in cache. Then you're cruising.
That would be insane. Just like, oh, what do you do with this amazing machine room? Well, are you familiar with the concept of spell checking?
So
like that's just not practically going to happen.
File.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so like you were saying, we have all the tools in the 60s, but with big computers, that kind of use just isn't going to happen because it's not practical on economic terms unless you build something like the Programma.
And so they did. Okay. A couple small topics to hit because I am looking at the timer and my God, we are coming awful close on an hour here.
We can't have this be longer than the main episode. That would make no sense.
And we gotta save some energy for next time. So
yes.
I do want to run over for sure because you were saying that you actually have some stuff for this. One of the big themes of the Programma story is the whole, oh, this isn't a computer thing. This is just it's a desktop calculator that happens to be programmable, and like, because people don't want to buy a computer and like, you see that story come up a bunch. So there's certainly got to be some truth behind all of them in the environment of the time, as far as like the economic business, procurement kind of story that was going on at the time. But you got the same story. The first one that shows up to me as like immediately hits my mind when you hear this is the DEC PDP story, because that's told over and over and over again, as they called it the PDP, because it was a program data processor. We don't want to use the word computer. And so that was on my mind. And then up top, I was mentioning I looked up the HP desk calculators because they're, semi-related, and I wanted to see their timeline as well. And right at the top of that wiki page, which again, take that with a grain of salt, the lead engineer or somebody, totally, maybe it was Bill Hewlett for all I know, all I remember, was saying the same thing about the HP 9100 programmable calculators when they launched them. Was like, oh, we had to do this under the radar, like we couldn't say they were computers. Nobody wanted a computer on their desk, so we had to sell them as calculators. Anyway, so you were saying you had a little bit on how real that DEC story is, because I don't know about for anybody else, but I find that interesting because there is something that itches at my mind of that just seems like too good of a story, and who wouldn't want to buy a computer, like especially in the early 60s when like you've gone through the 50s, they have clearly proven their worth. They seem like a good thing.
And like a PDP-1, that's unequivocally a computer. You can't be like, this is just my data processing machine. It's like, no, that's a little mainframe. You bought a small mainframe to put in our computer room. So common myth, right? The PDP is named that way because it's trying to hide that it's a computer. When I did my PDP-1 episode way back, I actually pulled up the script. It's not that far back. It's episode 132. So when DEC dissolved, a lot of their internal papers were donated to archives, and they're now online. So you can actually find DEC's original business plan, which is how they got venture capital. It's how the company got money and survived. So it's 2 phases. Phase 1 is we're going to make these lab bench modules. Phase 2 is we're going to use the money from that to build a computer. And it's like very explicit in their business plan. We're making a computer. We're targeting it to cost this much when we sell it. It's made from these modules. It is a computer that's programmable. And there's nothing there about like, oh, we're sneaking in. It's like, no, we're sending this to investors and being like, please give us money. We're going to make a computer in phase 2 of our business plan.
Right.
I was looking through the script, though. I didn't figure out where the name PDP came from specifically. It might have been a marketing
it sounds rad
thing. Yeah, it does sound cool. I think it was marketing specifically, but like DEC wasn't naming it something that wasn't computery to get funding. They were very, very clear about what they were doing. And same with the
not going to hide it under a sheet and say, you don't see this.
Well, like I was saying,
has this big front panel on the front.
I can't imagine. Yeah, anyone that could have been tricked by that. Because the PDP-1 literally does just look like a small mainframe. Like, come on.
And then maybe you get it to your, your procurement people, and they're like, what do you want to buy this for? Oh, computer things.
Yeah.
Data processing. Oh, like a computer?
Yeah, they figure it out so quickly. Someone comes in with a forklift. You're not going to be like, oh, is that a new desk?
Yeah.
No, it weighs a ton.
Yeah, I just wanted to slip that in there because I remembered that episode vaguely, and you saying something about that. And I mean, it seems like clearly there's probably more of a case for that. And who knows at this point, all of this is stuff lost to time. But for the Programma 101, because it is such a different thing, though it does.
Yeah, and I think
I don't know. It still just kind of surprises me that
wise, but design wise, no, computer. He was making a computer.
Yeah. I'm just still so surprised, like with that marketing angle, that you wouldn't want to buy a computer for your desk at whatever its retail price was.
Well, that's
it just strikes me as such an odd story that comes up a lot for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but that is one of those things that would be really, really hard to get good sourcing to figure out if people were actually resistant to buying computers for any specific reason. besides like, oh,
Right.
it's too expensive, or like, oh, we don't actually need a computer.
Yeah, the fact that you have like those deck documents is kind of fascinating because you've talked about them before in past episodes, and the fact that those deck internal memos exist is kind of wild. I really should.
Well, we wouldn't have access to them if deck still existed.
Yeah.
Like we don't have access to IBM memos like that because IBM's still alive.
But like as far as like surely companies do market research all the time, but we're never going to see like the Olivetti, we did a little market research to see if people would buy a computer for their desk stuff. So it's just going to be like gone or still in their archives, and they're not going to.
In some cases you can. So Apple actually has donated a lot of their internal documents to Stanford. So the Stanford Library has, they have this huge collection of Apple internal documents that haven't been digitized. Yeah, a while back I found out about that. I'm like, I could go down to Stanford and do that, but it'd be like weeks and weeks and weeks to scan everything. But yeah, it's really tough with existing companies. Like for a while I was trying to get some information from MetLife about, this is a totally different thing, but just about some,
I would imagine.
Yeah, it's about some patents that someone that worked at MetLife had issued to them like in the 1920s or something. And they do have internal archives at MetLife, but they don't, you can't get access to them unless you like go through really specific channels. And I wasn't able to find what I wanted, and they didn't want to go do a archival search for me, which is insane. I know they should have.
Come on. Don't they know how important this podcast is?
It matters to someone, to me.
All right. Let's end on, because I don't even know what I know we both enjoyed this when I brought it up, but I don't know what we have to say on it. So maybe this is a blurb and we're out, but I just love the malicious compliance work strategy.
Oh, me too.
Aspect of this story. Because
it's classic, right? I feel like there's so many stories that are not relatable, right? But occasionally I run into stuff like malicious compliance, like Peroto just showing up at GE and just being like, I don't want to work with these fools. I'm just going to be rude until they ask me to leave. Like that's something that I've done to people before. I know I've done that to contractors that I don't want to talk to, right? It's just funny. It's the kind of color that I find sometimes in these stories, and this is one where this was masked by that myth that he lied and said, oh, this is a calculator, not a computer, when the fact of the matter is, no, he just did some like kind of nasty workplace shenanigans and was kind of rude to some Americans.
Yeah,
and got to keep his computer. The reality
is so much better. Right.
Yeah, and that's so much more relatable. Like, not everyone's doing like big brain corporate like plays and strategies and doing knife and dagger stuff. Everyone's been kind of mean to a coworker before.
Yeah.
Right? At least a little bit.
Passive aggressive to someone that like doesn't work well with you, or that you just don't want to engage with. I mean, this seems like a special kind of
I'm sure it was above and beyond.
Extra nasty, but
I mean, to get the engineers at the company that bought your division to call your old boss and be like, hey, take my boy back. I don't want to work with him ever again. I'd love to track down one of those GE engineers and be like, what did this Italian man do to you? Like, what did he say that made you so angry?
And it's because you don't really have a good reading of the extent, right? It really could have been anywhere from like kind of passive aggressively being useless to just like being an ass, and there's a big range in there, and you can really see it going from anywhere.
Wrote that in his autobiography that he was kind of mean to GE engineers.
Yeah.
So if you got to imagine he's trying to paint himself in a good light, even if he's being very realistic. Which kind of makes me think that he was pretty mean to some engineers.
Yeah, if you're willing to say that about yourself.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I was kind of mean. Smash cut to him just screaming in Italian at some nerds at GE.
And meanwhile, they're new. This is a new acquisition, so I'm sure these guys are like, is this just how you
Is this
work
how they do it over there?
here? Yeah. Interesting corporate culture.
What kind of company
Oh,
did we
man.
acquire? What's happening?
Though also, I think that puts a nice little bow on it. What more thinking outside of the box approach to things would you expect from the guy who invented the Programma 101 and came up with that madness? So,
Truly, I forget where I put the quote in the show, but in his autobiography, he said something along the lines of, you only find the right answer when you're out of options. So you got to take crazy risks. And coming up with, oh, we're going to make a very small computer, that's a crazy risk. Shouting at GE engineers after they acquired your division, also a crazy risk. But it worked out.
you better have real good job security.
Oh, yeah. Or really, really not care anymore.
That actually does make me immediately think, I can picture like tenured professor trying to make things hard on people because you know he's stuck there. That's the vibe I'm getting now. All right. On that note, I think that's time for us. As always, Sean, thank you for your time.
Of course.
I'll say that
Thank you,
early
Joe.
on in these ones because this is just going to become old hat and I'm not going to appreciate it anymore after a certain amount of time. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, we appreciate the warm response that this kind of weird experiment has gotten. That was just me reaching out and seeing if Sean wanted to do something weird because he sounded like a neat person. And it turns out he is a neat person. And I hope that I am also fitting some of that bill for you guys out there and you're having a good time with us. But until next time, I think we're just going to keep up this cadence of episode next week on whatever it is that you're going to get us into next week. And then we will catch up on that the week after. So you guys get more episodes. We're on a weekly basis of Advent and Adjunct related content now. But until next time, I will see you guys.
Catch you around.